Sales Babble is sponsored by Wingman, your source for actionable sales intelligence. This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 423, How to Get Buyers to Sell Themselves.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers. One great struggle sellers often face is knowing when and how to close a deal. They have no problem demonstrating the product or describing the service. But when it comes to asking for the sale, it's a challenge to do so elegantly and not sound pushy. That's the topic for today, and here's a hint. It's to get the buyers to sell themselves. Now, when I first graduated from college, I was hired by Bell Laboratories as a software engineer on telecommunications systems. I was doing the D part of R&D. Meanwhile, the R part in New Jersey, Bell Labs was developing the Audrey system. It could recognize a single voice speaking digits aloud. And by the end of the 60s, Bell Labs and IBM and other big companies in those days, they could support words with 4 vowels and 9 consonants. Well, we've come a long way since then. For example, with our sponsor Wingman, you can set up tags to identify the competitor names. Word phrases like, how do I? Explain this. Price. And how does this work? For example, if a prospect mentions a competitor, a battle card pops up instantly and displays points that helps reps handle comparisons and objections. Wingman is a game changer for sales organizations. Go to trywingman.com/salesbabble and get a free demo for a free trial today. Wingman, it's your source for actionable sales intelligence. And now today's chapter, Ask and You Shall Receive. Like a flashlight in the dark, the master seller sheds light on solutions. When muddled and confused, they ask the buyer, what would you do if you had more time? What would you do if it was easier to do your job? What would you do with the money this solution would save? By asking, the buyer reflects. With reflection comes understanding, with understanding a decision, and the decision to purchase. By asking, you receive. By questioning, you are answered. And now today's story. During the sales call, Chris methodically explained all the features, going through them patiently, one by one. After a while, the questions started to slow down, and it was unclear where Lee stood. Chris was stymied on the next steps and looked over and caught Pat's eye. Pat spoke up. Like we shared, Lee, this solution will raise the quality of your product 8% while cutting the time down 50%. What would you do with those savings? Lee paused, looked up into the air and said, I guess I would use the savings to expand the new product line. And then Lee went on and talked at length about the possibilities with the increased savings, and it was soon clear Lee was ready to buy. Pat closed by simply saying, wow, I see what you mean. This really is a good fit. Do you want to get this started next week? And with that, the deal was closed. The post-impressionist painter Paul Cézanne said, time and reflection change the sight little by little till we come to understand. The same is true with prospects. If you can get them to reflect on the possibility of your solution, you can get them to sell themselves. It was the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, where it says, ask and you shall receive. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. You couldn't get sounder sales advice. To download a copy of this week's Tao Te Ching of Sales chapter, you can find it in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com. And while you're at the website, sign up for our email list, and you'll be able to download a free copy of the Tao Te Ching of Sales ebook. You can also find links to our sponsor, Wingman. Wingman, it's your source for actionable sales intelligence. Just go to trywingman.com/salesbabble to get a free demo today. And if you forget this link, again, if you go to salesbabble.com, we've got all the links there. As I mentioned last week, we now have a Sales Babble Facebook group. It's a private group for sales babblers. If you go to facebook.com/group/salesbabble, you can request to join the conversation. We would love to have you. Stop on by. Thanks again for visiting, folks. That's all I've got for this week. Until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.